Build your pipeline, but not too big. Now, you're probably thinking, what do you mean? Why not too big? Like the more I have in my pipeline, the better off I am, right? However, there is a point of diminishing return. Now, I'm going to explain it to you in a simple way, but really it comes down to numbers. If you had 200 in your pipeline, but you were overwhelmed with it and you close at 1%, then you're going to close 2 deals. However, if you had 80 in your pipeline, a pretty ideal number when it comes to real estate, and you close at 5%, you close 4 deals. Now, that's 2 deals versus 4 deals. In addition, you have 2 people in your sphere of influence, in your past client database, in your referral database versus 4, which means with the 4, obviously you can get more perpetual business as well. So why is it like this, and what does this actually mean, and how could we relate to it in a slightly different way? Well, I like using the bartender analogy. So I know that a really good bartender could handle a certain number of people. Now, I've never been a bartender, so I'm just gonna make up the number of people and say that it's 30 people. You're at kind of a trendy bar that mixes a really cool cocktail menu, right? A lot of fun drinks, and they've got 30 people at that bar, and they could service that person at an exceptional level. They're checking on everybody, making sure their drinks are always full, checking to see if the bar snacks are full. They're having conversations with some of the guests, making them feel really special and giving them a great level of value when it comes to entertainment. Now, let's say that bartender, their shift was the 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. shift. Now, they have another bartender coming in at 4 p.m. working until 11 p.m. that night. Now, there's a couple hours of overlap. Well, why is that? Well, because it's the busiest time at the bar. It's oftentimes when they have specials and happy hours. People are getting off of work or starting early dinners, and that's when it gets really busy. So now, it turns out that that evening shift bartender got a flat tire. And they call into the bar and they talk to the other bartender and they say, hey, I'm going to be a couple hours late because I'm waiting on AAA. Now what happens is that first bartender starts to get overloaded as the bar starts to fill up more and more. Instead of them having 30 people at the bar, they all of a sudden have 50 people at the bar. Now I ask you, does the service level remain exceptionally high on 30 people and the other 20 people get dog poo service? Or does the level of service become mediocrity amongst all of them? Let's say a 3-star level service instead of a 5-star level service. Yeah, you guessed it. Everybody's waiting a little too long for their drinks, not feeling special. They're wanting to ask the bartender if they know them from somewhere, or maybe it's a regular and they had something to tell them about the last time they were there. Whatever the case may be, that bartender is frazzled. They're running from one end of the bar to the other, making another drink and another drink, and they're doing just the bare minimum to be able to keep up with the demand that's even happening. Your drink's been empty for 10, 15 seconds, maybe even 10 minutes. And again, the levels have gone down for everybody. So what happens? Maybe that bartender makes the same amount of money. Maybe they make a little bit more because there's so many more patrons. Oftentimes they actually make less, and you wonder how. How could they make less? They've got more people there, but those service levels dictate those tips. Well, the same exact thing happens in real estate. When we go above a certain amount, and I'll tell you, what I've seen as that perfect amount for a full-time agent is 80 people in their active database. That means 80 people that they're nurturing. Now, they may be prospecting on a daily or at least a couple times a week basis, but that's to actually refill that pipeline. Because what you're doing with those 80 people on a regular basis is you are actively engaging them, putting them in escrow, or disqualifying them. Something may have changed in their life to where they're no longer moving forward. Maybe they actually ended up using somebody else, even though you built rapport and thought they were going to be using you. Maybe they decided to move to a different state or a different city instead of moving to the state or city that you're in. There is a host of different reasons why people may be disqualified, or maybe again, it's somebody that you had great rapport with, and when we sent them to the lender, well, they actually didn't qualify. Whatever that reason is, you are going to basically take from that 80 on a monthly basis and bring it down to about 70, hopefully putting 2, 3, or 4 in escrow and disqualifying 6 or 8, maybe a few more. So you're working the prospecting in order to fill that pipeline back up, and then you work that actual pipeline over and over and over again at a level of service that is above and beyond what they would get elsewhere. That's going to get you converting the most business. Now, just as a rule of thumb, I use 80. I do know some agents that can handle up to about 120. I have never met an agent that really handles above 120 at any sort of exceptional level. That's even the agents that are closing 100 or 150 deals a year. They're usually very, very focused on those top people that they've built the rapport with. They're disqualifying some, they're qualifying some, they're putting many in escrow, and then they're, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Having a 1,000-person database is not going to benefit you. Having a 200-person database is not going to benefit you. Look at exactly what you can do and what that maximum is. So mine your database exactly where it should be, figure out your sweet spot, and crush it.